Hello, everyone. Here's your weather and hazard briefing for Thursday, November 4th. Our next round of rain and snow will be returning later today. There's a little bit of fog around this morning, not as much as we've seen in the past 24 hours, but there's a little bit out there, so just beware. And if you run into that, visibility could briefly drop and then pick right back up to being unlimited. Like I said, that spreads through later on today. We're expecting light amounts. Snow generally confined above 8,000 feet. A little higher rain and snowfall amounts expected in the Sawtooth and the surrounding mountains. Like we've been saying before, that Aleutian low, that pesky Aleutian low out there is going to send several storms off of it and keep us unsettled through this upcoming weekend. We have our next storm moving inland this morning, or moving along the coast. That storm's going to swing through. This storm's mainly going to be impacting the central mountains in terms of where the moisture is going to fall. And you can just see it's pretty chaotic out here, out in the Aleutians, the northern Pacific, the Gulf of Alaska, down through the central part of the Pacific, and that's just going to continue to feed our weather pattern over the next few days. Looking at that weather risk outlook, we are looking at light rain and snow across the area, and where we're having minor impacts, it's, again, just very minor. Some of this is going to be due to the fog. Some of it's going to be due to a little bit of a wind out there. Some of these places that are getting a little bit of snow in the higher elevations, and like we said, especially there around the Sawtooth, there might be a little bit of an impact going into the higher elevations with that. But as we go through the weekend and the early part of next week, these storms aren't going to be dumping a lot of moisture, it looks like, at this point. This could easily change as we see these waves moving inland and we get a better idea of what's going on. But just some light rain and snow through the period. The strongest winds are going to be today into the overnight hours tonight into early tomorrow morning. Looking at how that precip's going to progress today, you'll notice we do have that band approaching the Sawtooth, the Stanley Basin around lunchtime. This will spread eastward, and as you notice, as it moves east of the central mountains, we kind of lose some of that fizzle, but there's this band of showers that will continue along the cold front. That'll shift on to the east, and as we go through about midnight, not much is left. Maybe a few showers up in the central mountains and down in the southeast corner, but we go into the overnight hours. By sunrise tomorrow morning, we're not expecting any precipitation across our area. So, rainfall for the rest of the day, we're talking about that 2/10, maybe a quarter of an inch or just a little bit more on the Sawtooth. Once you get away from there, the rain and snowfall amounts quickly decrease, and in some areas we may not even see any more than just a trace of rain or snow across the area. Those snowfall amounts in the central mountains, most areas seeing maybe an inch or two, and once we talk about those 1 to 2 inch amounts, they're way, way up there for today. For winds this afternoon, they do pick up. Some of those strongest winds, at least in the afternoon hours, will be in the central mountains, and some of those gusts up at Ridgetop over 35 miles per hour. Gusts elsewhere 20 to 30, maybe some 35-mile-an-hour wind gusts across the southern and southeastern highlands and in some of those gap areas spilling out into the Snake Plain and the Magic Valley. For highs today, we are looking at some lower 60s. Chalice at around 61, Salmon 63. As we get down towards the Magic Valley, temperatures in the mid-60s, also down towards the Utah border as well. For this evening and overnight, those precip amounts shift into the eastern highlands, but like we said, they'll be quickly diminishing compared to what's falling over in the central mountains. Still a little heavier pocket there in the Sawtooth and the Galena Summit area. Snowfall amounts will be light tonight and maybe around an inch there in the Sawtooth and also around Galena Summit as well. Those gusts this evening, some of those gusts still in the central mountains over 35, 40 miles per hour. 30 to 40 mile an hour gusts across the Snake Plain into the eastern highlands. And in the overnight hours, that pocket of gusty or stronger wind will stay put there, and some of those gusts around 25 to 30 miles per hour. Tomorrow morning, the temperatures in most of the lower elevations will be at or above freezing. You get into the central mountains, 30 in Chalice, the Stanley Basin and Copper Basin in the mid-teens to around 20 degrees. Tomorrow afternoon, it will be cooler across the board. We might hit 60 down in portions of the Treasure Valley and Magic Valley, but other than that, 40s and 50s expected for afternoon highs. Saturday morning, with the next storm coming in, it will be warmer across the board, not getting out of the 40s down across portions of the Snake Plain and Magic Valley down towards the Utah border, and we continue to cool off on Saturday. Sunday, temperatures will be cooling, and will also be cooling again on Sunday, with many areas not getting out of the 40s if you're at the lower elevations. 30s up in the mountains, so be prepared for winter-type conditions if you're heading up into the mid and upper elevations of the central Idaho mountains. And it'll be pretty chilly on Monday morning, and temperatures will be even cooler. We're not necessarily going to get into the rain and snow amounts for the weekend and the early part of next week. Like we said, at this point, there's not a lot going on each day. It will be kind of a nuisance rain and snowfall with each of these waves coming through. But if we see those precipitation amounts increasing with any particular storm, we'll certainly try to get out ahead of that and give you a heads up on when we might see a period of heavier precipitation here in central and eastern Idaho. So like we said, a little bit of fog this morning around, not a lot, but when you see it, it may be pretty dense for a very short amount of time. That rain and snow with today's storm spreads east pretty quickly this afternoon. Most areas will see light rain and snow except around the Sawtooth and the surrounding mountain ranges there. And active weather keeps us going through next weekend and pretty much into the early part of next week. Have a great day out there, and do stay safe, everyone.